It's for a motivational English learning episode, and it's called English Conversation: Goals for Your Best Year 2026.
And this is such a fascinating deep dive because we get to analyze the pedagogy, the teaching strategy, before the lesson even, happens.
Right.
Our sources lay out the architectural plans for an episode that's aimed squarely at beginners. And our mission here is to dissect the engineering behind it.
Engineering of a shortcut, it seems.
It is a shortcut. It's designed to help you, the learner, improve your language skills while also building a positive, future-focused mindset, all at the same time.
We're basically dissecting this blueprint to figure out how the creators engineered that efficiency, especially for new English speakers, because they so clearly understood that paralyzing fear of just information overload that hits every beginner.
Oh, absolutely.
And the solution, which we're going to unpack today, is this hyper-focus on clear structure, repetition, and just deliberate simplicity.
And that approach, it isn't a limitation. It's actually the core strategy.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this and see how they turn that constraint to confidence.
What we're examining is really a masterclass in applying sort of minimalist design principles to cognitive development.
See how we learn.
Yes. And if you're learning anything new, it doesn't have to be English. This strategy provides some pretty profound insights into effective knowledge transfer.
That brings us right to the first core insight then, which is the episode's dual mission. You have language training on one hand and emotional motivation on the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about practicing grammar. It's about aligning that practice with the learner's own personal aspirations for 2026.
That combination is where the psychological magic really happens. In language acquisition theory, we often talk about something called the affective filter.
The effect feeling.
It's essentially this mental wall. It's built from anxiety, fear of failure, lack of motivation, and it blocks language input from becoming usable output. For beginners, this filter is often, very high.
So if you're stressed out or just bored, you're not actually learning.
Precisely. You're not retaining it. By pairing a necessary, sometimes, let's be honest, challenging linguistic task with something that's inherently engaging and motivating, like planning for your best year, you naturally lower that filter.
I see.
The learner stops seeing it as homework and starts seeing it as, investing in their personal aspirations.
So they're not just reciting, the cat is on the mat.
Exactly. They're practicing the phrase, I want my year to be successful, which has real personal meaning.
And the sources really emphasize that the feel of the session is critical to keeping that filter low. It's described as a calm and natural, friendly social conversation. Why is that specific setting so crucial for a beginner?
Because it simulates a real-world, low-stakes environment. Beginners, they often freeze up in formal settings. So by positioning the lesson as if you're just eavesdropping on a natural chat, the content creators are aiming for maximum psychological comfort. The explicit goal, and the description says this, is building both English confidence and positive thinking in a relaxed social setting.
So the practice itself becomes a source of positive reinforcement, not fear.
It does.
I find the way they pivot from abstraction to something tangible here really clever. The discussion isn't just some random list of goals. It's anchored by a central, simple metaphor.
Right.
The feeling that a new year feels like entering a new place in life. That one idea frames the entire goal-setting discussion.
It's a highly effective mental mapping technique. Abstract goal setting, like just saying be better, is way too vague.
Right, what does that even mean?
Exactly. But framing the future as a new place or a destination, that immediately activates our visualization skills. It transforms the intimidating, horizon of the future into something you can almost navigate geographically.
So if you're going to a new place, you need directions, you need tools.
Specific tools. And so the language being taught, the adjectives, the future tense becomes the vocabulary you need to describe the terrain of this new place you're about to enter. It makes the language instantly functional.
And memorable.
And memorable, because the learner is mentally rehearsing their future self in a really defined setting.
Let's move deeper then into the technical specifications of the lesson structure, the nuts and bolts of this beginner-friendly pedagogy. You mentioned a primary goal here is managing cognitive load. So how does the blueprint ensure the content is easy to follow and absorb? How does it address that need for a manageable pace?
They've been meticulous about using scaffolding. They don't just throw the learner onto the 10th floor. They build the stairs, one step at a time. The first clear structural choice is a reliance on short sentences and repeated phrases.
That seems almost painfully simple, but I know from experience that complexity just It paralyzes new learners. Can you elaborate on the psychological benefit of keeping sentence length minimal for a beginner?
It's fundamentally about working memory. For a new English learner, the brain is constantly decoding. What sound is this? What word is this? What's the grammar structure? That process it exhausts your short-term working memory capacity.
Did I lift?
A very heavy lift. So by using sentences that are short, say 5 to 8 words, you keep the entire utterance within the learner's immediate grasp. They can process it, decode it, and then practice repeating the full thought without forgetting the beginning before they even reach the end.
And that leads right into the pace. The conversation is explicitly described as slow and supportive.
Hmm.
Why is that slow pace so critical? Beyond just being easy to follow, is it about reducing anxiety or something else?
It's both, but it's primarily about giving the auditory processing centers in your brain time to catch up.
Okay.
Auditory processing in a foreign language is a physical activity. The slower pace provides the necessary lag time for the brain to match incoming sounds to known phonemes and then translate those into meaning. If the language comes too fast, the brain just panics. The affective filter shoots up.
And the listener just switches off.
They're gone. The supportive pace is the deliberate act of reducing the mental effort required just to decode the sounds.
And the third key element of this scaffolding is the context. They use real-life examples that are easy to follow. I imagine this is a stark contrast to the, abstract theoretical examples you find in so many textbooks.
Absolutely. When a concept is taught through an example you can't relate to, say, discussing the fluctuating stock market if you're a student, the learning is inert. It doesn't stick.
Right.
But if the examples are about waking up early, feeling energetic, planning a weekend, the learner can immediately map the linguistic structure onto their existing personal experience. That contextual memory aids retention exponentially.
Okay, now let's zoom in on the specific vocabulary choice, because this is where that strategy of, simplicity as an accelerator really shines. The entire lesson is centered around describing life and future plans using clear, simple adjectives. They aren't introducing words for philosophical nuance. They're choosing words for maximum functional impact.
The selection is incredibly targeted. We can sort of analyze these adjectives based on whether they describe an outcome or a process. The core adjectives, the ones that articulate the desired end state for 2026, are things like better, calm, busy, happy, successful, and positive.
These are the big picture goals.
They are.
These are the words you need to answer that first question. What kind of year do you want?
Precisely. They're aspirational, they're outcome-focused, and crucially, they are instantly usable. The sources also include a second, slightly more descriptive set, the contextual adjectives. Words like new, exciting, challenging, peaceful, and hopeful.
That distinction is really important. The contextual adjectives, they seem designed to describe the journey into that new place, not just the destination itself.
That's a crucial insight.
You might want a successful year, that's the outcome, but the process of getting there might be challenging or exciting.
Yes, that's a crucial insight because it allows the learner to move beyond simple affirmation and actually express nuance, even with a tiny vocabulary pool. They can say, my year will be successful, but I expect it to be challenging.
And just like that, they're demonstrating command over two key adjectives and the basic future structure.
Exactly.
What's so fascinating here is how the simplicity maximizes the practice potential. The sources state that these simple words are explained in context, meaning they're not just isolated vocabulary drills.
No, not at all.
By limiting the pool to these highly functional terms, the beginner focuses on application and retention, not just, definition and memorization. It's mastery through constraint.
It is the exact opposite of throwing a dictionary at a beginner. If a learner feels they have mastered a handful of functional words and can immediately apply them to discuss their personal goals, that confidence boost is huge. It outweighs the benefit of knowing 50 abstract terms they might never use.
That psychological win is the accelerator.
That's it. That's the whole accelerator.
This strategic choice leads us directly into our third segment, how the episode forces engagement through active practice and this future framing. The creators don't just, hope the learner decides to practice later.
No, the practice is woven directly into the script.
How so?
The transition from passive listening to active application is managed through very clear, immediate instruction. The listener is urged to, and I'm quoting here, pause, repeat, and try using the adjectives to describe your own life and future in English. It's mandatory interactivity.
So it stops being a passive audio lecture.
And becomes a personalized workshop.
And this personalized workshop, is structured by these simple, but as you say, incredibly powerful conversational prompts. We see questions like, what kind of year do you want? And how do you want your life to feel?
Hmm.
I see the simplicity, but are these prompts truly powerful? Or are they just easy to answer? I mean, where is the line between beginner-friendly and patronizingly simplistic?
That's a vital question. They are powerful because they demand a personal, reflective answer. A prompt like, how do you want your life to feel? That's a profound philosophical question, but here it requires only those simple adjectives for the answer. Peaceful, busy, hopeful.
I see.
It marries depth of thought with simplicity of expression. So the learner is expressing a genuine, complex aspiration using the absolute minimal linguistic tools provided.
And the episode also supplies the exact structural tools for the response. They teach future-focused expressions like, I want my year to be, and I hope 2026 is.
Right.
By giving the learner that framework, the sentence skeleton, all they have to do is drop in one of those simple, mastered adjectives.
This is the ultimate streamlining pipeline for converting passive input into active linguistic ability. The learning becomes deeply personalized. It's about their life, their goals, which means it's deeply memorable.
So repetition in this context isn't rote. It's not boring.
It's rehearsal. It's rehearsal for the future.
If we connect this all back to the bigger picture of effective knowledge transfer for beginners, this whole approach demonstrates that targeted repetition and a limited functional vocabulary is so much more effective than just broad exposure.
It really is.
They're teaching function first and complexity later.
It reminds you of how much noise we often add to goal setting in our own lives, or even when we try to learn a new complex domain. We believe we need these highly complex frameworks or, advanced jargon.
Right. You think you need to be an expert to even start.
But this pedagogical strategy proves that beginners, whether it's in English or finance or coding, they need clear incremental wins. They need to focus on the essential functional language necessary for self-expression and basic interaction. They need simplicity to access confidence.
So what does this all mean? Our deep dive into the blueprint for this learning episode reveals a meticulously designed structure. It uses simplicity, constraint, and targeted repetition not as limitations, but as a highly strategic tool.
A tool to maximize both language confidence and positive future planning simultaneously.
The engineered outcome is a learner who feels capable, hopeful, and linguistically equipped for the year ahead.
And that idea of strategic simplicity is so profoundly applicable to any learning project you might undertake. The foundation of thinking about our lives, our goals, our futures. It can be captured effectively using just a handful of simple, clear, functional concepts, which raises an important question, I think. If complex aspirations can be distilled into simple words like hopeful or challenging, what simple word best describes the kind of deep dive you want to take next?
And what single adjective describes the way you want to feel when you've finished it?
Something to mull over.
Definitely something to mull over as you plan your own year or your next learning project. Thank you for joining us for this analysis of pedagogical strategy and efficient knowledge design.
My pleasure.
We hope you apply what you've learned about structured simplicity to your own pursuit of knowledge.